There's a lot of great races and locations to choose from for this list.
Yeah, but overall I think that the viewers are gonna agree with our calendar picks.
Let's share it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be putting together our dream F1 calendar. Of course, there's a lot of things to put into consideration for this one, so let's just cover those right now. So there's a few rules in place to help us narrow down our selection. So the first rule is that the track has to have hosted a Grand Prix within the last 10 years, or the track has to have hosted a total of 10 Grand Prix since the start of Formula 1.
There's also 3 more factors to take note of. The first one being that travel logistics are not a huge concern within this video, but we are trying our best to be mindful of the track schedule. The second factor being that we are not taking monetary funding into consideration. And then finally, the third factor is that all of the races that we have selected either have the appropriate FIA grade to host a race or will be upgraded in order to do so.
Final disclaimer, will this list be perfect? Probably not.
People are probably going to have some grievances with the choices that we made, and that's okay. For our perfect calendar, we decided to go with 20 races because that seems like a good enough number, and 23 is frankly just too much. So it is very much possible that we have excluded a track or a race that you would have liked to have seen on the calendar. If that is the case, you'll have to let us know in the comments.
While you're there, don't forget to subscribe and leave this video a like if you are enjoying it. And without further ado, let's get into our calendar. To start off our season, we are going already into the European leg, going to none other than the British Grand Prix as our season opener. Could you imagine the atmosphere of this being the opening race? This track has given us great wheel-to-wheel battles. Although the weather might be questionable, I think this will be an excellent start to the season. For round 2, we're going across the English Channel for the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. In terms of the circuit layout, there's 2 up in the air here. There's the pre-2001 era going into the forest, or the more modern era track that we've seen in recent years. For our purpose, we're going to go with the modern era, just because it's more familiar with us, and the last 2 years have given us some really good, shocking races.
For round 3, we've decided to cross over into Belgium for none other than Spa. I think it is safe to say that this is a fan favorite track. We get quality racing pretty much as a guarantee. Of course, it would practically be criminal if we went to Spa without immediately going to Monza right after for the Italian Grand Prix. The atmosphere at Monza is like none other, and this is due to the rich history of this track, being that this is the longest standing circuit in Formula 1 history. This is an incredibly fast track, seeing some top speeds. It can be a little bit narrow in some sections, but typically we do get some incredible racing here.
Next, for round 5, we're going over to Portugal. We had a debate between Estoril and Portimao. In the end, we decided to go with Portimao for our calendar. Although Estoril has a lot more history in Formula 1, we were very pleased with the results that we got from last year's race in Portimao. With one of the best opening laps last season, we want to see what more Portimao has to offer for us. They might just need to fix that DRS zone, because it made overtaking a little too easy last year. And it's a great replacement for Catalunya.
Next up for round 6, we are jumping over to Monaco. I know that this will be highly contested. Not everybody likes this track or wants to see it on the calendar. Personally, I am pro Monaco because it offers us the best free practice and qualifying session of the entire year. The track itself is stunning. I mean, the hairpin alone is such a gorgeous shot. We get some of the best driver onboards, and it is a true testament to the skill that these drivers have to be able to navigate such a tight, narrow circuit. But for round 7, we are going for polar opposite scenery, this time going to the Austrian Alps for the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring. As we saw in the 2020 season, we had 2 back-to-back races in Austria, and we got incredible quality of wheel-to-wheel racing. No matter the weather, this track performs. In recent years, we've seen that there is never a clear winner going into this weekend. The elevation, tight corners, and opportunities for overtaking makes this a fantastic track that I think is a must-have.
Following this, we're going to be making our way to Istanbul for the Turkish Grand Prix. Last year was voted the best race of the season, and for us, it didn't disappoint either. Having similar vibes to Brazil with the downhill first turn, and who could forget turn 8 being a 4-point turn? Such a unique feature. It's a fan favorite track that people want to see back on the calendar year after year. Next, we're going over to the Middle East for the Bahrain Grand Prix. However, we were spoiled with the Sakir Grand Prix, so we're going with the outer track for this race. We wanted a race under the lights in the first half of the season. This track has given us sub 1 minute laps, something we haven't seen in a long time, and the racing proved to be really good at this track.
And for our final race before the summer break, we are going back to a circuit that people have been wanting to see on the calendar for years.
We are going back to the Kyalami racing circuit for the South African Grand Prix.
Of course, this track will have to undergo some changes, much like Zandvoort, in order to meet the FIA grade. This is a track that many fans and drivers alike have wanted to see back on the calendar, and by including this, it will truly make it a world championship.
So these would be the first 10 rounds of our calendar before the summer break. So our opening race coming back from the summer break is the Australian Grand Prix. The twist here though is we're going back to Adelaide. We've typically seen Adelaide as the season closer in previous years, and it has given us a lot of title deciding races. Although we like the Albert Park circuit, we wanted to switch it up a little bit this time round.
Of course, we had to include Singapore on our calendar because of the iconic race under the lights. Overall, the racing can be a little bit hit or miss depending on the year, but one thing for certain is that tire management is crucial here under the intense Singapore heat. So we want to provide a little bit of variety. The drivers always say that they have to train especially hard for this race, and it just feels like it belongs on the calendar. Following this, we're going to make a quick jump over to the Malaysian Grand Prix. Ever since this track was removed from the calendar, fans have been demanding that it comes back. It provides great racing, the track is superb. It just feels like an obvious choice, and I want Sepang back on the calendar.
Following this, we're going to be going to a circuit that hasn't been seen since 2013. We're going to be bringing back the Indian Grand Prix. It's without a doubt that there's a strong F1 fan base in this country, and it's been a long time since they last got their chance to experience a race in person. It may not always be the best racing, but it felt right to include it in our calendar.
To end off our Asian leg, we are going to Japan because Suzuka is also a must-have on the calendar. This circuit provides great racing, although it's not usually voted one of the best of the season. It typically ends up being somewhat unpredictable, especially if the weather decides to act up.
Following this race, we're going across the Pacific Ocean to our homeland, Canada. At Circuit Villeneuve, it would be a sin if we wouldn't put this track on our calendar, seeing as we are Canadian.
The Montreal race is criminally underrated, in my opinion, and that is not just coming from a biased Canadian. Although people may not always recognize it as such, it is a very technically challenging track, from the first chicane to the Wall of Champions to the tight overtaking spot in the final hairpin. This track really does have it all.
Next, we're going down to the United States, however, we're not going to the Circuit of the Americas. The United States has hosted a variety of different Grand Prix over the years, however, we decided to go to Watkins Glen in New York. There hasn't been an F1 race here since 1980. With the bank turns at this circuit, it reminds us a lot of Zandvoort, except this track is wider. The other tracks in contention was in Indianapolis and Long Beach, however Long Beach didn't meet our criteria, and Indianapolis already has the Indy 500, so this felt more appropriate.
Staying on par with the typical calendar, we have decided to put Mexico towards the end of the season. The Mexican fans are just so passionate, and we love seeing a track where the grandstands are so close to the edge of the circuit. The atmosphere at the stadium is so unique, and we think with Sergio Perez moving up into that Red Bull seat, the energy will only be amplified.
Before the season finale, for round 19, we are going to Argentina. We wanted to see more races in South America in our calendar, and this track has hosted 20 years of Formula One racing. The circuit in Argentina has gone through a lot of different track layouts, and we've decided to opt for the one that was used between 1974 and 1981. It has a very unique flat-out section that would be really interesting to see how the modern F1 cars would perform at this track.
And of course, for the season finale, we had to go with none other than the Brazilian Grand Prix. Interlagos never disappoints. In my opinion, it is the best possible option to have as a closing race. We see very quick laps here. It's an old school style circuit. The drivers absolutely love it, and we've seen some very unpredictable outcomes here in recent years.
It's going to keep us engaged throughout the entire race and finish off the season with a bang. So those are our 20 picks for our ideal F1 calendar.
There were, of course, some honorable mentions. When we were going through our picks, we had also considered the Nürburgring, Zandvoort, Jerez, Imola, and Magny-Cours.
Let us know down in the comment section if we forgot any other circuits. And if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave it a like and consider subscribing while you're at it.
As per usual, make sure to follow us on social media to keep the conversation going.
And we will catch you in the next video.
Bye!